Hey everyone, I'm Laura Gadenik. I'm an astrologer and a therapist, and I'm here to give you the astrology for the weeks of December 2nd through the 15th, 2024. So the next 2 weeks contain a lot of astrology, a lot of back and forth, yes and no, expansion, contraction. So let's jump right in. So today, Monday on December 2nd, we have Venus making a trine to Uranus. Venus is the goddess of love, beauty, connection, relationship, harmony. Uranus is change, 180 turn of direction, innovation. And so with Venus trine Uranus, we get easeful transitions and changes in relationships, in style, in collaborations. You might also want to do something fun today that's a bit outside of your regular routine or your normal day. Uranus is a planet that wants excitement and change and outside of the box thinking. So apply those concepts to Venus, goddess of love, beauty, pleasure, and relationships. And that's kind of what you get is like, the trines are easeful, opportunistic. So these are kind of easy things that you might be finding happening. There's maybe easeful changes or transitions happening in those themes, in relationships, style, collaborations, etc., art. Okay, and it's pretty quick transit. Venus moves pretty quickly, so it won't last too long. It might last, into Tuesday as well, the 3rd. Then on Wednesday, the 4th, we have 3 transits happening. This is a bigger day. First of all, we have Mercury, which is currently retrograde, opposing Jupiter. Mercury is in Sagittarius, Jupiter is in Gemini. These are opposite signs. Mercury is planet of the mind, communications, conversations. Jupiter is our faith, what we believe in, what our broader perspective is. And this is a bit more of a complex transit because this is the second time that Mercury is opposing Jupiter. When we have the planet of communication in the mind opposing Jupiter, a planet about faith, what we believe in, we get opposing views. We get, situations where people are at odds. People don't understand each other. So we might have to come to terms with opposing views and do some work to understand the other side, understand a new perspective, broaden our mind. That's really what this aspect is all about, is how can I broaden my mind and think about this situation in a new or different way, or think about this situation from that person's point of view. Why might they be thinking this way? What's going on in their world? What needs are they having? Or what experiences are they having that are making them have these kinds of ideas or these kinds of thoughts? Like I said, this is part of a bigger process. We had the first Mercury opposite Jupiter on November 18th, when Mercury was moving in a direct motion. This is the second pass, so we're not done with this story. The third pass of Mercury opposite Jupiter will be on December 26th. And that'll be this sense of kind of wrapping up what this journey has been. And Mercury opposite Jupiter is also tying in Mercury square Saturn, Saturn square Jupiter. There's been this kind of what's called a T-cross happening for the last several weeks between Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn. And essentially, this is all about restructuring something in our mind, restructuring the way we look at something, and really focusing on broadening our perspective through humility, through learning, gathering more data, more information, like, I wonder why that person would think that, or how did we end up on such opposite turfs? How did we, what is, there might even have been some really confusing situation, or maybe a misunderstanding, like, how did I end up over here and that person ended up over there? And so you might be in this process of I need to gather more data. I need to learn something. Clearly I'm missing something. I'm missing maybe some terms or a way of thinking about something. So this is a very kind of philosophical cycle with Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn. And we're doing a lot of work to really reframe our cognitions, really reframe the way we're thinking about something. And that's going to look different for everyone, right? It's not going to be, it might be the way, it depends on what house this is happening, or houses, I should say, this is happening for you in your chart, but maybe you're reframing the way you're thinking about relationships and self. Maybe you're reframing the way you're thinking about work or family and home or kids or friendships. Like there's houses that cover all of these topics: money, sex, work, health, all of these things. So, but generally speaking, we are all undergoing a process of doing some kind of heavy lifting cognitively, and really kind of restructuring the way we think about something to broaden our mind, to broaden our perspective. So on the same day, on Wednesday, December 4th, we have the Sun square Saturn. This feels a little bit of a potential bummer or restriction, or maybe a disappointment or rejection or feedback, like kind of like, oh, that felt a little harsh, or maybe like, oh, I wish I got that done. I didn't like commit to something that I really wanted to commit to. There could be just kind of a sense of restraint to the day or to your energy as well. But at the same time, Venus, goddess of love, beauty, connection, romance, harmony, makes a really beautiful sextile to Neptune, a planet about dreams and forgiveness and compassion and escapism. So that also kind of helps out the day a little bit it helps soften that Sun square Saturn energy. And Venus sextile Neptune can help us relax, help us engage in some healthy escapism, connect with other people, maybe forgive people, like soften our hearts if there's something that has been sticky, especially with the Mercury retrograde squaring Saturn and opposing Jupiter, and also with Mars, stationing retrograde in opposition to Pluto. I don't know about you, but I know in my world and in the worlds that I'm part of, there's been a lot of tension, there's been a lot of opposition, there's been some conflict, been some drama. And that's very on par with a Mars stationing retrograde in Leo opposite Pluto, which I'll get to. That's happening on Friday the 6th. But the energy recently over the last several weeks have been really kind of intense and maybe a bit heavy, maybe dramatic. I just want to kind of say that it's been kind of a tough time astrologically, but we're also, there's actually, Mars opposite Pluto can bring up some really heavy stuff, like really, like, intense feelings of anger, rage, hostility, hatred, and it can be kind of tough for our mental health. So I just want to kind of state that the astrology at this time can be really intense, and there might be some really intense things happening in your life. And so I just want to speak to that. And also we are at the same time in a process of thinking about it maybe in a new way, broadening our mind, coming to resolution, coming to processing something maybe intense or heavy. But so Venus sextile Neptune on Wednesday the 4th can kind of help soften things a little bit, maybe find some respite or some rest or something. So Thursday the 5th, we have Mercury, currently retrograde, conjoining the Sun. And whenever a planet conjoins the Sun, it's called a kazimi. The planet is entering the heart of the Sun. And the Sun brings light, illumination. So there's something that's coming into our awarenesses. Maybe you're getting new information that you were missing before. You might have an insight, an aha moment, an important conversation that, highlights something. Thursday the 5th is an important day. I would highly recommend journaling, reflecting, paying attention to your insights, to what feels true to you in your body. You might just have some personal recognitions or insights or aha moments. So that's on Thursday the 5th. Friday the 6th is when Mars stations retrograde. So this is, like I said, happening around 6 degrees of Leo. Mars will be retrograde until February 24th. So I think that's about 11 weeks that we have Mars retrograde. Whenever any planet is retrograding, we are reviewing and reflecting on that planet's significations and themes. What is Mars about? Mars is about our anger, how we express anger, how we defend ourselves, how we protect ourselves and other people, especially if someone has attacked you, or maybe you're the bully, right? Like maybe someone's defending themselves from you. So it's a good time to kind of be reflective of like, how have I been aggressive or violent in some way? We are reviewing our energy, our motivation. What do we have energy for? What do we not have energy for? Often during a Mars retrograde, it's a good time to kind of like rest, maybe slough off things that are like, oh, that's too draining. I can't do that anymore. That's not worth my time or energy. It's a good time for rest. It's a good time for reflecting on how can I communicate when I'm upset better? How can I stand up for myself, but also communicate compassionately? I would highly recommend folks check out Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. There's a book and also like a course you could take. It really speaks to how to communicate like what you're feeling and identify the needs behind those feelings. Also recommend checking out Accountable Communication. What are we being held accountable for? What are we wanting others to be accountable for? And how can we engage in conflicts with honesty, with integrity, with, you know, taking accountability for our part in the conflict? And maybe sometimes you don't have a part, you know, it doesn't always take two to tango. If someone's like poking you with a hot stick and you're just like walking along the sidewalk, like, did you do anything to, you know, instigate that? Probably not. Like, you just existed, right? So it's good to be discerning and have, you know, practice good judgment, which obviously takes time and lots of perspectives and whatnot, but good to practice judgment around like, why is this upsetting to me? Am I, you know, am I angry or upset because of what this person actually did? Or am I being triggered? Is it something from my past that is coming up to you know, to the surface? So yeah, lots of potential here for growth, absolutely. And we're also going to be reviewing in general our energy and like how we're, you know, our output of energy in our Leo and Cancer houses. And that's because that's where Mars will be retrograding. Additionally, I mentioned Mars is stationing retrograde in opposition with Pluto. Pluto is a planet about the depths. It's a planet about death and rebirth, transformation, things that we sweep under the rug, secrets, power, injustices, essentially. So with Mars opposing in this, or stationing retrograde in opposition to Pluto, we might be coming up against something that feels unfair or unjust, or you know, or, you know, something that's been like kind of secretive. And we're gonna have to maybe contend with like, oh, I've been feeling this way for a while and I haven't really been honest with myself or with that person. And I think I really need to like speak up and speak my truth and take accountability for my actions and just be honest, right? I can't keep hiding this thing. I need to take actions, Mars, that are transformational, Pluto. Something needs to maybe die so that it can be reborn in a more honest and true light. So that's one thing, or one consideration with Mars opposite Pluto. The other thing, like I said, you might be having to stand up for justice, maybe standing up for someone who was attacked, or if an unjust action was done, you might be finding yourself like wanting to get involved with some sort of like social justice group, or, you know, something like that. Mars opposite Pluto can be pretty violent and aggressive and intense. Like I said before, this could have implications for mental health, people's mental health. So if you're someone who's really struggling with your mental health, just be very wary of this time frame. Reach out for help if you need it. Get a therapist. Yeah, I mean, there's been some pretty heavy stuff in my world and the people in my world around this transit, where people, feel like they might need to take extreme action to get out of pain. Mars is a planet that cuts, severs, it's sharp. Pluto is intensity, passion, like death. Sometimes, Mars opposite Pluto can just kind of bring to the surface how much pain people are in and how much help they really need. And so this is not a time to sweep things under the rug. This is a time to reach out to people if you notice they're hurting or being more quiet or they're struggling. Like, take the leap, take an act of courage and ask that person, are you okay? Do you need support? What can I, what can I do for you? This is a time to really connect in community and help each other out, I would say. So the first pass of Mars opposite Pluto was November 3rd. We might also be contending with some pretty intense conflict or disruptions, or maybe something needed to die, something needed to end to be restructured. So that was November 3rd when Mars was in Cancer, Pluto was in Capricorn. It might have been, unhealthy attachments that needed to end. Working with some anger, some rage, processing that stuff in your body. I'm a therapist, like I said, so that's what I help people do all the time. Highly recommend it. The second pass, I don't think I've said this actually, but the second pass of Mars opposite Pluto will be January 3rd. So that's going to be kind of like part 2 of a 3-part series. The third and final pass of Mars opposite Pluto will be April 27th. So that will be kind of this wrap up of this Mars opposite Pluto scenario. So kind of a long time. It's not like we're going to be in this intense conflictual entanglement the whole time though. I will say it might feel that way, or it might feel a little bit tense through January 3rd. So just being mindful of that. Okay, on the same day, Friday the 6th, Mercury retrograde makes a square to Saturn. So like I said, this is part of that kind of restructuring, processing, relearning. We're doing some cognitive heavy lifting. We're maybe restructuring beliefs, the way we're looking at something. This could involve getting or receiving feedback, giving feedback to other people. You might be hearing something that's hard to hear. There might be some feelings of rejection, or that feels really heavy, or maybe disappointing. Watch your negative thoughts on this day. It could feel like something is being limited or held back, or you might be receiving a no. So the first pass of Mercury square Saturn, this is part 1 of a 3-part chapter series. The first pass was November 12th, thinking back to that time. What conversations were you having? What thoughts were you having? What were you doing? What was in your calendar? The second pass obviously is Friday, December 6th. And then the third and final will be December 27th. So it'll be kind of this wrap up of what we've been reviewing and reflecting in terms of this heavy cognitive reframing. For me, I've been really doing a lot of learning about consent and boundaries and saying no and honoring no's. And, as a woman, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate, women are often socialized to people please, to caretake, to say yes, to be polite all the time. And so I've really been kind of practicing saying no and really paying attention to my own limits and to my own boundaries and to what my body is saying, and then not being scared to communicate that to people, and just being honest and integral and having character. Those are all very Saturn words, by the way. Honesty, integrity, authenticity, getting to the bones of the matter, what is really honest, right? Mercury square Saturn helps us connect with our truth in a way. It helps us have character by stating what will and what won't work for us. So that's something that I've been personally working through, and maybe some of you could relate to that. Additionally, on Friday the 6th, Venus, goddess of love, beauty, connection, romance, and art, heads into Aquarius, where she will immediately make a conjunction with Pluto on Saturday, the 7th of December. Pluto, once again, planet of life and death, death and rebirth into new life, transformation. So Venus conjunct Pluto can look like a transformation in relationships, a death and rebirth process. It can also, it might not be only about relationships, it could also be about art or beauty, maybe your values as well. Maybe it's about money. You could be going through a process of like a death and rebirth journey with regards to your values, maybe around sex, pleasure, and beauty. Maybe something like a radical change of how you view yourself and how you view like your own sense of attractiveness, your own sense of worth and value. Venus conjunct Pluto can also be pretty intense in relationships. It can bring about obsessions, jealousy, sexual tensions. It can be very erotic as well. So if you are, dating someone, you have a partnership, or you're seeing someone, it could be like a really nice time to connect with that person or with those people. Anything else about Venus conjunct Pluto? Yeah, I don't think so. It's funny, on that day, actually, I'm going to my friend's art event, art show, and it's on hedonism, and it's all about pleasure and sexuality and beauty. And so it feels very Venus Pluto. It feels like sometimes you just like notice the archetypes happening in your life and you're like, it's right there. So similarly, or on the same day, Saturday the 7th, we have the sun making the opposition to Jupiter. So this is kind of like bring up whatever the Mercury opposite Jupiter brought up or has been bringing up over the last several weeks. The sun opposite Jupiter could have you going to extremes, could have you, being very philosophical, having conversations with other people around philosophy, belief systems, what's true, what's right, broadening your mind. Also just, going to extremes. I can really see, especially with Venus conjunct Pluto, this might be a day where maybe you have like a little bit too much to drink, or if, that's something that you engage with, or you kind of like let yourself go a little bit, you let yourself have fun, you just kind of like let go of the strict rules that you've maybe been adhering to, and you go a little bit too far. But sometimes we might need that. Sometimes we might need to kind of like let loose and let go and just go with the flow. So Neptune stations direct also on this day, December the 7th. So Neptune will start moving forwards again and begin its final stint in Pisces, which is very exciting, especially for anyone who has planets or placements around 27, I would say between 25 to 30 degrees of the mutable signs, which are Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Gemini. This is exciting news that Neptune is finally starting to turn around and move forward and get out of this part of the sky, because Neptune can be just draining and a little bit difficult. But okay, Thursday the 12th, Venus makes an opposition to Mars, which is retrograde, remember. This could bring up sexual tensions, conflicts, breakups, relational tensions. I mean, on the opposite end of things, it could bring about olive branch, like a way to resolve conflicts that this Mars-Pluto thing has kind of amplified, Mars-Pluto opposition. So Venus opposite Mars can bring about an opportunity to tend with relational skill to these conflicts or to these tensions. Friday the 13th, Venus sextiles Mercury retrograde. This is a quick transit, but it's all about sweet words, poetry, songs, stories, verbal creativity, resolution, potentially, having nice positive thoughts. It's kind of a nice little break in all of the intensity that we've all been experiencing. And then December 15th is when Mercury stations direct. That's going to be at 6 degrees of Sagittarius. This will be when Mercury starts to move forwards again, and we'll start the journey of kind of integrating everything that we have been taking apart and closely examining and learning about and reflecting and reviewing. And we're going to be finally moving forwards again with this new information. And, you know, things will start working again. Your laptops will start working again. Maybe you got new technology. Maybe you had to get some things fixed. Like maybe you know, everything you've been reworking, it's like finally coming into more cohesive or more cohesion and just functioning better. So that'll be really nice. Okay, so that's the astrology for the next couple weeks. My apologies on this video being longer than usual. There was just so much to cover. I hope you found this useful. I am open for consultation, so please reach out if you are curious about how this astrology lands for you personally, because I promise you it's different for everyone. So I hope you have a wonderful couple of weeks, and I'll be back soon with another astrological update. Take care.